You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Let's dive into what is a massive question for LSU football right now. Who's going to play quarterback next year? Thank you. We're all having that question right now and all looking at this recruiting class and saying, okay, you've got 11 committed prospects. Walker Howard is in that number. And Mike Scarborough mentioned it when he was with us earlier. I know I've mentioned it here before. Jamie and Walker Howard have both said when asked very candidly, they're okay with bringing in a transfer. They're okay with Walker sitting next year. That's not the case everywhere. A lot of guys go and they want to play immediately, and I understand it. In this day and age and culture, guys want to be through and done to the NFL. A lot of guys don't want to wait. They want to play immediately. We could all have our own commentary on whether that's good or bad or entitled or whatever. Whatever. That's just what it is. And the culture that's been built and the way the system works now at the portal, it's built to where guys want to play immediately. If they don't, they leave. Okay. Just like that can disadvantage you like it has with LSU with Brennan and Max Johnson both leaving, it can also work to your benefit like it has so many other places. I mean, Oklahoma had back-to-back Heisman winners in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray that were both transfer quarterbacks. LSU's national championship winning Heisman winning quarterback was a transfer. So, okay, just understand you're going to lose guys, but use it to your benefit as well to gain players and just have it even out. That's just the way the system's going to work now. And to be clear, Brian Kelly has used this system to his advantage. While he was at Notre Dame, they brought in Everett Golson from Florida State as a transfer. This year, his starting quarterback for the bulk of the season was Jack Cohn, a Wisconsin transfer. So this is not atypical. This is something that's fairly common to Brian Kelly to go into the transfer portal to find a guy that can give him veteran experience and stability at the most important position on the field. Okay, so LSU's short on numbers. Myles is out. Max is out. We'll see what happens with Garrett Nussmeier. Maybe let's see how it goes till after spring. Don't know. Walker Howard's coming in. He's willing to sit. So the answer is very obvious. You have to add someone with experience because you're not going into this season with just Garrett Nussmeier and Walker Howard. You can't. You can't have two quarterbacks on your roster. You got to have more depth there. So they're going to add depth. So where? Who is really the question, and what might that look like? So let's take a look at what we know about the transfer portal right now and major college quarterbacks that are in the portal and what their destinations look like. So 247 Sports does have a transfer portal page. That's what I'll reference here. If you want to see it there, they rank guys by position and all that sort of stuff. Okay, let's go ahead, Paul. You can take this. So they rank Quinn Ewers as the top quarterback in the portal. If you don't remember, Quinn Ewers was a 2022 quarterback, reclassified for 2021, enrolled at Ohio State, was immediately eligible. Well, we know what happened there. C.J. Stroud won the job, was a Heisman finalist. He's got 2 more years of eligibility, very likely before he jumps to the NFL. So Quinn Ewers wasn't going to play at Ohio State. He wants to play immediately. So he left. He's committed to Texas. So he's going to go play for Sark at Texas, probably get a chance to play right away. Good on him. He was a 5-star, number 1 quarterback, all that sort of stuff. So Quinn Ewers is off the board to Texas. The next highest rated quarterback is Cameron Ward. And this is an odd one because he plays at an FCS school at Incarnate Word, which is in San Antonio. Well, he's transferring out of Incarnate Word, and it's still undecided where he's going to play. However, he did take a trip to Ole Miss. Now, that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Given the style of offense that Lane Kiffin runs there with a quarterback, and you look at Matt Corral this year, the only quarterback to throw for over 2,000 yards and run for over 500 yards this season in college football. Cameron Ward fits that mold, and it would probably be a good fit at Ole Miss. Dylan Gabriel, who the strangest part about Dylan Gabriel is LSU got to see him early in his career. Gabriel played when Mackenzie Milton at UCF had that devastating injury. Dylan Gabriel stepped in for Mackenzie Milton. Milton transferred to Florida State. Gabriel's been the starter at UCF. Well, obviously, Gus Malzahn is there now. playing for a different head coach and a different offense, and he's transferring, and he's been crystal balled to UCLA. The interesting part about that is Spencer Rattler, the Oklahoma quarterback, has also been projected to go to UCLA. So both Dillon Gabriel and Spencer Rattler are projected to go to UCLA and play for Chip Kelly. I can't imagine a scenario where both of those guys who are looking to play immediately end up at the same school. I mean, that's bizarro world to me. I'll grant you I don't know all the inner workings of what's going on at UCLA football or with those two individuals. I do know that early in this process, Dillon Gabriel was thought to be a candidate to go play wherever Jeff Lebby is, and Jeff Lebby was at Ole Miss, and that was the thought, was that Gabriel was going to go to Ole Miss. Well, Jeff Lebby leaves to go join Brent Venables' staff at Oklahoma. Jack, they got a quarterback already. I don't know if you heard of him. His name's Caleb Williams. He's really good. So there's not a spot to play at OU. So Gabriel's looking for a new spot. Dual threat guy. Where might that be? If ultimately Cameron Ward is the guy that Ole Miss is targeting, Gabriel's looking around. Say the same thing for Spencer Rattler. Don't know what his future is. Interestingly enough, the next highest rated quarterback they have is Max Johnson, who would actually probably be the best option for LSU if they could just get him to stay. But it seems like that ship has sailed. And Max Johnson may end up at his dad's alma mater at Florida State. I know that South Carolina has been in on Max Johnson as well, trying to get both Max and his brother to commit together. We'll see, but it just seems very obvious that they're not going to end up back at LSU. The interesting ones that have popped up here of late, Kedan Slovis from USC, Bo Nix from Auburn, Myles Brennan, and then Zach Calzada from Texas A&M, who entered the transfer portal today. The only other one listed there is Jacob Zeno, who's leaving Baylor, and he's already committed to UAB. So when you look at this list, this is probably the list that you might be choosing from. Slovis, Nix, Calzada. I guess, and to go a little bit wider range, potentially you could get in on Dillon Gabriel. Potentially you could get in on Spencer Rattler. Both of them are projected to UCLA. My guess is only one of them ends up there, and the other could theoretically be an option for LSU. And look, we could go further down the list, but it's probably not going to be a lot of names that you get super excited about. Ira Armstead, a former 3-star who's been at Virginia, Deuce Hogan from Iowa, Cole Snyder from Rutgers, Parker McQuarrie from UCLA, Jordan Yates from Georgia Tech, Jack Plummer from Purdue. I mean, you understand what we're talking now. Like, you've basically taken a pretty significant step down in the star quality of the quarterbacks that are available right now outside of those ones that we mentioned. So anyway, where could LSU land? I don't have the crystal ball. I don't know specifically, but here's what I can tell you. You can start to eliminate potential prospects by knowing what Brian Kelly is looking for. For example, when he was at Notre Dame, the first transfer he took, we mentioned, was Everett Golson. And you might think that Everett Golson was more of a dual threat guy, but that's not exactly the case. In 2015, when Everett Golson played at at Florida State, he left Notre Dame for Florida State, forgive me. He was a guy that didn't run the ball at all at Florida State when he left Notre Dame. Played Notre Dame, had him in a championship game, left and went to Florida State and only ran the ball 47 times in that season. You could also look at the guy this year, which was Jack Cohn, right? So Jack Cohn started his career at Wisconsin, and this year, when Graham Mertz emerged at Wisconsin and won that job, Jack Cohn ends up as the starting quarterback at Notre Dame for the bulk of this season. After playing at Wisconsin for 4 years, really become the starter in 2019. 2020, of course, was the COVID year, didn't play. And then this year, he opted out. This year ends up with 318. He threw for 2,600 yards. I'm looking at his stats right now. 20 touchdowns, 5 picks. And as far as a runner, only ran it 53 times. Of course, that's non-sack adjusted. So when you look stylistically at the types of quarterbacks that Brian Kelly's had, yes, he had Ian Book, who was an athletic guy who could run around, but more likely what you're looking for is someone who could be a pocket passing quarterback with enough mobility to move around and extend a play. That's Max Johnson. That's probably your best option, but it also seems like that ship has sailed for LSU. If you could get in on a Spencer Rattler, great. For me, I would love to see them go pot committed, if possible, to Kedan Slovis. Slovis is a guy that we know that Brian Kelly knows well. Notre Dame and USC play each other every year. Slovis started as a freshman in 2019 when, incidentally, JT Daniels was injured. Slovis played his full freshman season. He played so well, Daniels transferred to Georgia, and we see how that's gone for JT Daniels now. But as a freshman, threw for 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, but each year since has been a struggle. His completion percentage has gone from 72% to 67% to 65%. His passing yards, 3,500 as a freshman, 1,900 last year, but albeit in just 6 games. And then 2,100 this year. His touchdowns, 30, 17, 11. His production has consistently dropped since his freshman year. But the question is the ability, the physical ability still there for Slovis? And the answer is probably yes. It's just they weren't very good as a football team. Clay Helton got fired midseason this year. You had offensive turnover. Like, sometimes a restart, a fresh start is good for a player at any position. Like, that's probably what's best for Myles Brennan because he's had his shot. He's had some unfortunate injuries. Do you stick it out? And maybe just a fresh start somewhere else is best for him and for LSU. And the same may be true for a guy like Kedan Slovis, who probably fits that mold of what's best for LSU. I could make a case for Bo Nix. I could. Knows the SEC. Tons of experience playing in the SEC. When he's good, his good is really good. The problem is his good is inconsistent. Another guy that you wonder, could a fresh start somewhere else be beneficial? Maybe Bo Nix finds his way down to Central Florida to reunite with Gus Malzahn. As much as we may look and say, yeah, that's not really good, he was his best when he was with Gus. So maybe that's a spot with Dillon Gabriel leaving UCF. I don't know. I'm guessing and spitballing. You could look at guys like Zach Calzada, who was at his really good, was good enough to beat Alabama this year. His really bad was like the guy couldn't complete a pass against Colorado. The guy who I think probably has the best ability combined with the best upside still remaining, I would say, is Slovis, and that would be the one I would target, the one that Brian Kelly probably knows best because he played him each of the last 3 years at Notre Dame. So the one thing is for certain, whoever it is, I don't know, but the one thing is for certain is that LSU is going to add a transfer quarterback this class. They just have to. You cannot go into this season with only Garrett Nussmeier and Walker Howard, having no quarterbacks with any real legitimate experience playing major college football. If you can re-recruit Myles Brennan, fantastic. I don't think that that's going to happen. Same with Max Johnson. So you have to look into the portal to add someone with starting quarterback experience. There's a long list of guys. And by the way, you expect that list is only going to continue getting longer. So if there isn't someone that you could target and add right now, wait. And that list could potentially grow as it did in the last 48 hours with a handful more starting quarterbacks from major Power 5 schools. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.